scan until it says
which is
then
just weird.
Then I get to copy the link and tell everybody that we are out here on live.
Yeah, because we're live. Yeah, we're live right now. I literally just got it. It says we've been live for 13 seconds. So yeah, this is week 7 of the NFL recap. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter show only because we've got 6 teams that didn't play, and if you play fantasy football like I do, it absolutely ruined me because I got murdered in fantasy because of all my guys were literally on the same bye, and usually I don't check for that because I usually have good luck with that. But yeah, that was a bad idea on my side.
See, I just don't play fantasy football, so a lot of my
weird to me.
Who should I? What's that?
That's weird. That's weird that you don't play.
I've never cared for fantasy football because I think the year that I gave up fantasy football was the 2019-2020 season, the 100th season of the NFL, and I had Miles Sanders on my team, but he was playing the Packers, so I benched him because I was like, I don't want to give myself any reason to root for the Eagles. I don't want to be like, oh, Miles. And then he had 55 points. So after that, I was like, I'm done with fantasy football. I haven't played since. Like, people will invite me to their leagues, and if they're like, hey, like, we want to start our league today, we still need 2 more people. Will you join? I'll be like, yeah, sure, I'll join. And then I'll just draft like Ducks players, Packers players. I won't really try. Like, my first overall pick the past 2 years has been Marcus Mariota, and he's a backup. So I don't really try in fantasy football. I don't really play in fantasy football.
I get you.
So yeah, people hit me up. They're like, who should I pick up? Who should I? And I'm like,
you're a league filler.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And like one year, my buddy who really likes fantasy football, we won't pay to play in the league, but he'll bet with his friends that he's playing against, and he'll text me. He'll be like, bro, you have DK Metcalf. He's sitting on your bench. I know you're not playing. Well, he's expected to have a big game. I'll give you like $5 if you give me DK Metcalf for nothing. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. So
you're one of those guys. You're the worst.
Sometimes it pays off. And most of the time, if someone just says, hey, can I have DK Metcalf? I'll be like, oh, yeah, sure, whatever. Here you go. But if they're offering money, I'll be like, you know what? Yeah, sure, I'll take your money. And you can have a guy who's expected to have a couple 100 yards this week.
Yeah, no, I get it. Okay, I get it. I would hate to play with you because I'd be like, fuck that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like people invite me and I'm like, oh, I'm not really big on fantasy football. And they're like, oh, come on, just play. And I'm like, all right, whatever.
Well, this week, overall, before we get into it, first of all, I want to say thank you guys for watching. If you're watching live or you're watching later on, we appreciate you guys checking in with us. Do us a favor while you're watching. Remember to subscribe to Bigger and Brighter Sports as well as Mykel Sports. Throw us a like on the video. And also, you can find me on Twitter at Big Tuna BBS. You can also find me on Instagram at Bigger and Brighter Sports. And Mike, you can let them know where you can find them.
Yeah, guys, you can find me on YouTube, obviously at Mykel Sports. My Instagram at Mykel Sports _ YouTube, and then my Twitter is just at Mykel Sports. If you like banter on Twitter, sports banter, definitely follow me over there. I like to talk a lot of trash, and I can definitely dish it out and take it whenever it comes to the Twitter trash talk. It's the best. So make sure to follow me.
What about your OnlyFans?
My OnlyFans, on OnlyFans, I do the same thing. I talk about sports. Everything is the same. I just don't wear clothes. Everything is the same. It's the same sports talk, World Series prediction. It's just shirtless. Kidding, but maybe soon.
Problem is that there's probably someone out there that does it. You know.
Yeah, I know. It's like they'll be like, "Oh, he's copying me," and I'll be like, "Oh, well."
All right, jumping into the first game, a little bit of, maybe not a surprise here, but the Giants beat the Carolina Panthers at home 25-3. Carolina took a 3-point lead, and then the Giants scored the rest of the points. Big news out of there is that I guess now the Panthers are one of the front runners to get Deshaun Watson now, I guess. Them in
Yeah,
Miami?
that's the big rumor right now,
It's
apparently.
them in Miami, right? I don't know. I don't understand the Miami.
Miami is the biggest rumor, like in my mind, honestly, the most realistic one. Like I think that one is more likely to happen, but the Panthers are now in the talks as well.
Talks.
So it's
Well,
not
I
just
mean,
Miami that's going after him, but it's if anyone's
yeah.
going to get him, it's probably going to be Miami because I don't know if the Panthers really have any picks or anything. I mean, you look at Miami and at least they're going to have a top 5 pick this year because they're not good. So
Yeah. Stats wise, it's funny. You look at the stats here. Sam Darnold was 16 for 25 for 111, had one interception, and was sacked 3 times. His replacement was 3 for 14. It's not like he was any better. You know what I'm saying? With 3 sacks as well. So the Giants took apart the offensive line of the Panthers there. Chuba Hubbard had 28 yards. And I guess the only receiving thing I can see here is DK Moore there had 73 yards receiving. On the defensive side, Brian Burns and Derek Brown both had a sack. And there was no interceptions. On the Giants side, minus Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones threw for 203 and a touchdown. He also caught a pass, a great catch for 16 yards.
yeah, that was awesome.
Devontae Booker had 51 yards and a rushing touchdown. Pettis had 39 yards and a touchdown. Slayton had 63 yards receiving. Ingram had 44. John Ross had 27, coming out of nowhere there. Julius Pepper had a sack. Julari had 2.5 sacks. Lawrence had a sack. Leonard Williams had another. He's having a great season. He had a sack and a half. And Bradbury had the interception. So, yeah, a difficult game to watch. If you're a Carolina Panthers fan, I guess. If you're a Giants fan, it was good. But
Yeah, I mean, it was a really weird start to the game. I mean, the end of the first half, the score was 5-3. 5-3.
it was 5-3. You're right.
The Panthers had a field goal. The Giants had a field goal, but the Giants' first score was a safety. This game was weird from the start, but the second half, the Giants, they got a little bit of juice, and I think that kind of started after the Danny Dimes catch. I mean, let's not sugarcoat it. Let's not just act like, oh, that was a good catch. No, that was a great catch. Not just for a quarterback, for anyone to just go up with one hand, kind of took it to himself to a certain degree, and catch that while getting rocked. That was a great catch by Daniel Jones. It's been really tough for the Panthers this month. And especially Sam Darnold. He has not looked good. Was replaced, obviously, yesterday by Philip Walker, who is an XFL legend, the second generation of XFL for the 1 year that he was there. But he didn't have a great game either. This guy, I thought, was one of the better backups in the NFL. But to only have 3 completions on 15 passes is not great. It's just a rough look for the Panthers. I mean, guys aren't catching the ball. Darnold's not playing well. McCaffrey being out is actually hurting them a lot more than I thought it would. But let's not act like Chuba Hubbard isn't doing a little bit of something. It's just they're relying more on.
I think Chuba Hubbard's a good backup. I do.
Yeah,
I think that the Giants' defense played really well today.
Right.
On Sunday. I think that's what no one wants to talk about. I mean, Leonard Williams is having a great season for an interior defensive lineman. I bet you Jets fans are excited about that, huh? They traded him away for nothing. And do you know how they got the safety?
I was watching. I don't remember how it went down.
It was Darnold throwing an intentional grounding.
Yeah, it was intentional grounding while he was in the end zone. I had to think about it. I was like, he didn't run out the end zone.
Move.
Get sacked. It was kind of like a weird play. Yeah. Yep, that was bad. But yeah, I think you're right. This obviously says something about the Panthers. The Panthers are not good. Let's be honest, they're not good. I thought they were contenders. Turns out they aren't even pretenders. They are just a bad football team. But I do think that we obviously owe the Giants some credit to, yes, the Panthers lost this game, but the Giants also won this game, if that makes any sense.
No, it does, and you're right. And the Giants defense, 6 sacks, an interception, not a bad game at all for them overall. BT Whit Mason already is asked, do you think the Packers have a chance against the Cardinals? And
So
we'll talk about
we'll
that
get
in
to
the
it
middle of
later.
the thing because I think our prediction might be different, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm
Next one we're
definitely
going to
seeing
get
what's
into here was a last-second win for the Atlanta Falcons, who are now 3-3, which is pretty good for them. They beat the Dolphins, who are now 1-6. Man, oh man, I did not expect them to be this bad.
on.
Atlanta or Miami scored first, and then Atlanta kind of dictated it from there. Miami did score a couple touchdowns in the fourth quarter, and they had the lead going in there, and then last second field goal by Mr. Koo, which made the Falcons the winners. Stats wise, Tua Tagovailoa had 291 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, not bad. Two interceptions though. On the rushing side, Myles Gaskin had 67 rushing yards. Mike Gesicki, who in my opinion is a very underrated tight end that nobody really talks about.
Yeah.
85 yards and a touchdown. Jalen Waddle continues to impress as a rookie, 83 yards receiving. And then Hollins, Gaskin, and Ford all had receiving touchdowns. On the defensive side for Miami, Hollard had a sack, and Xavier Howard coming out of a little bit of a slump for him. He is not having a great year. Had an interception this week. Yeah. Matt Ryan, he had another decent game for him. 336, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Cordell Patterson continues to impress at running back. And I say running back. He had 60 yards rushing and a touchdown. Kyle Pitts continues. I mean, after he caught that touchdown, he had the bye week, and he just is rolling right now. 7 catches for 163. Russell Gage had 67 yards and a touchdown. Calvin Ridley had 26 yards and a touchdown. On the defensive side, Jones had a sack. Lucan and Hawkins both had interceptions. But, this young core of the Atlanta Falcons, meaning Ridley and Pitts, might be able to go. They've got a chance to maybe not make the playoffs, but if they continue to put up the numbers they're putting up, I mean, Pitts is not going to win Rookie of the Year. I think that's Chase or
pretty much locked up with Jamar.
I think Jamar Chase has already won it, but yeah, Pitts is doing well. So and Miami's just kind of falling apart.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Kyle Pitts is absolutely rolling. Like I said, week 1, early on in the season, he wasn't really getting it going. We weren't seeing what the hype was all about. But week by week by week, he's gotten better and better and better. The young core of the Falcons, I think, is really, really good. Matt Ryan, he shows that he has a little bit of that juice still, but he's just, I don't know, man. The picks were not pretty. Same thing with Tua Tagovailoa. Great game to a certain extent. The 4 touchdowns is amazing, but those 2 picks, you just can't have those, especially in a close game like this. I get it. If they're running up the score and he's just throwing the ball all over the yard and he throws 2 picks, that's difficult. We're talking about not a prime time game, but a very close game, an important game. I mean, the Dolphins need to get wins. And to throw 2 picks, that's just not good. The Dolphins are way worse than anyone thought going into this year. I mean, last year, this was nearly a playoff team. Now they're 1-6. I just think that that's piss poor. And what more can you say about Younghoe Koo? I mean, this guy is arguably the most underrated kicker in football. And it's weird to say underrated kicker because not many people, unless they're big-time football fans, know that many kickers. But, I mean, this guy definitely deserves to be talked about a lot more. And I think that the Falcons, if they can get it rolling, they could be pushing for the playoffs. I don't think that they'll make the playoffs. But I do think
not going to be a rollover win.
Right. They're definitely going to upset some people, and they might end up ruining a bunch of people's New Year's if they continue to keep playing well. I don't know if they'll make the playoffs, but I definitely think that they'll make a push for a wild card spot. With Tampa Bay being in their division, that's kind of tough. But the Panthers are pretty much dying as we talk, live and breathe. They're just getting worse and worse every week. The Saints, I think, are kind of a coin toss, and then the Patriots, or not the Patriots, the Buccaneers are who they are. So I think the Falcons have a chance. I think that they'll definitely push for it. I don't know if they'll make it though. I think
they've already played the Bucs once, so that game is already, and the next game is at home against the Bucs, and they haven't played the Saints yet, so I think that's going to be a big measuring stick for them to see where they're at.
Yeah, I agree.
They play the Saints, because the Saints are one of those teams too. Like, they beat Seattle at home against Geno Smith, but they could lose against, it's just, they're just different. But overall, good for the Falcons. I'm glad they're starting to play better, because they've got two superstars in the making with Calvin Ridley and Kyle Pitts, but they've got a pish posh group of guys that really have never gotten a real chance, in like Mike Davis, Cordell Patterson. I don't know why teams don't like to keep Cordell Patterson. I don't understand it, but they just
you could use him all over the field. Now we know he can play running back too. So
he's been in the league less than 10 years, and I think he's been on 5 or 6 teams. And he's had success on all of them. And I was a Raiders fan, and I was one of them that said, I don't know why you're getting rid of this guy, but but overall, Atlanta, I think, has a chance not to make the playoffs, but to be a disruptor, against teams that are fighting for a spot. This game here, did not predict this at all. The Bengals smacked the shit out of the Ravens, 41-17. It was 13-10 going into halftime, and then the Bengals outscored the Ravens 28-7. On the stats side for let's see here, for Lamar Jackson, he threw for 257 and a touchdown. He got some relief from Tyler Huntley. He also ran the ball 12 times for 88 yards. Devontae Freeman rushed the ball 4 times for 14 yards, but a touchdown. Marquise Brown had 80 yards and a receiving touchdown. Andrews had 48 yards. Bateman had 80 yards. On the defensive side, Campbell and Bowser both had half a sack apiece, and Humphrey had an interception. On the Cincinnati Bengals side, Joe Burrow has 416 and 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine both rushed for over 50 yards and both had a touchdown rushing. Jamar Chase, like we just talked about, 8 catches, 201 yards, and 1 interception. Right now, he is at 754 yards, which I think is close to the top in the league.
It's at least top 5, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure about that too. Let me double check it real quick. Receiving yards is Cooper Kupp with 809. Okay. Wow, who would have thought a white boy?
Him and Matt Stafford, they're clicking.
But then you've got the one thing that surprised me a lot in this game too was the catches by their tight end Usama, because he had 2 long touchdowns, and they were long like bombs, which was pretty cool to see. Higgins had 62 yards receiving. On the defensive side, Hubbard had 2.5 sacks. Hendrickson had 1, and then Okunjabi had a sack and a half, and there was no interceptions thrown. So a blowout that I think nobody saw coming, and now they're both tied at 5-2.
So every week I do predictions. I pick the Ravens. This week I had a guest picker. He picked the Ravens. I also have my boss do picks with me every week. He also picked the Ravens. So when we say that nobody saw this coming, I mean nobody saw this coming. But these guys over in Cincinnati, they balled out. Jamar Chase basically has won Rookie of the Year already. I mean, let's be honest. This guy is the Rookie of the Year. There's no debate.
No quarterbacks that are impressing.
Yeah, and Joe Burrow's wrapped up comeback player of the year as well. I think that's pretty easy as well. CJ Uzomah, we talk about Mike Gesicki being an underrated tight end. I think that CJ Uzomah is the most underrated tight end in the NFL. This guy is arguably a top 5 player at his position. It was an amazing third quarters. I mean, we talk about this game being a blowout, and it was. I mean, don't get me wrong, but the first 3 quarters of this game were actually really, really good. But Lamar and this Ravens offense just kind of stopped doing what they were doing in the middle of the third quarter. That's why this game got really out of hand. I think a lot of people might be woken up by this game or whatever by the Bengals saying, hey, the Bengals might be a really good football team. And I'm starting to see it to a certain extent. I still don't know if this is a Super Bowl contender, but this team is definitely a playoff team, 100%. It's going to come down between them, the Ravens, and the Browns to win that division, and I think it's up for grabs. Any of those teams can win it.
I think it's going to come down between. I think that Cincinnati's great. I think that they're going to sooner or later. It's going to the rookie, all this stuff's going to come. The cream's going to rise to the top a little bit, and I think by the end of the year it'll be between the Browns and the Ravens. But I love what I'm seeing because I've always been a Bengals fan because I love the colors, but I also know what it feels like to be a down team for so long. And they were in the 90s and the beginning of the 2000s. So it's good to see it. I'm so glad they made Joe Burrow. I loved him in college, even though I'm a Georgia fan. But, listen, Jamar Chase, he's playing like he should have been picked number 1, and it's no one, they don't get picked number 1. Wide receivers really don't. But still, good for him. And a lot of people had questions about that. But I'm like, you know what?
Yeah. When I was one of those
chemistry with him, it's crazy how good it could be, and it's just like he's relying on him, and it's like, well, he can do all the work if he wants to. That's pretty much it, But good for them. I do think the Bengals are going to kind of falter a little bit by the end of the season, but I love the way they're playing right now, and I watched them live against the Packers, and I was impressed because Jamar Chase was not having a great game until the end of the game, but they were able to use other people, which it's going to be it's going to be interesting to say the least. Yeah. Next game we got a big blowout here. Another one. The Patriots beat the Jets 54-13. It was just a smack around thing. The Jets, Zach Wilson's going to be out for 2 to 4 weeks, but don't worry. They traded for his heir apparent, Joe Flacco. Don't understand that trade. Never will, but whatever. Probably because I guess he might know the offense. I don't know.
Yeah, because he used to be there. So.
Yeah, and I mean, and the Jets' backup is Mike White from Western Kentucky.
Yeah, he was. I think that he also was the backup for the Cowboys last year. He was one of those guys that kind of got some rotation whenever Dak got hurt.
Yeah.
No, it was Andy Dalton. It was Gabbert, I think, for a game, and then I think it was Cooper Rush, and then Ben DiNucci. So yeah, not White. White did play, however, he did play for the Cowboys once upon a time ago. I'm pretty sure though. So.
Yeah. Stats wise, I mean, Zach Wilson's, he was, whatever. So Mike White threw for 202, 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. Elijah Moore had a rushing touchdown. Good for him. Probably might be his first one of the season. Carter the running back, had 8 catches for 67 yards. Johnson had 65 yards receiving. Corey Davis had 47 yards and a touchdown. I feel so bad for Corey Davis because he's so good. And he's just, I don't know why he went there, but whatever. On the defensive side, Phillips had a sack, and that's about it. On the Patriots side, Mac Jones threw for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. Then Brian Hoyer came in and stuff like that. Harris had himself a good game with 106 yards and 2 touchdowns. Taylor had 2 touchdowns rushing. On the receiving side, Bolden had 79 yards and a touchdown. Nelson Aguilar, fuck him, 51 yards and a touchdown. Hunter Henry had a touchdown as well. On the defensive side, Bryant had a sack along with Coulier, and on the interception side, Duggar and Jackson both had interceptions. I don't think there's much really to talk about in this game, but
no, I mean it was just an absolute blowout. The Patriots did get a little bit tricky earlier. That first touchdown of the game was on a trick play, which I thought was really good. They were just great throughout. Mac Jones was absolutely on fire this game. Zach Wilson, who I'm not really the biggest fan of, I haven't ever been, and I don't know what it's going to take for me to be a fan of him. But he did get hurt, which was unfortunate for the Jets, but I don't think it made that big of a difference because they are very bad. That's all I have. The Patriots absolutely dominated this terrible Jets team. Oh, it was ugly. That was ugly.
Thing is that if they continue to be as bad as they are, they'll at least have a chance to get the kid from Oregon to be a good pass rusher for them,
Sure.
But they probably, knowing them, they won't draft him. They're going to draft somebody else,
Well, so did you hear, and, obviously since this wasn't much of a game and we're not going to spend that much time talking about it, I did want to bring this up. So we did beat UCLA. After the game, they were interviewing Kayvon Thibodeau, and I think he said something like this team is really good. We got to keep pushing. Basically, he said nobody can effing stop us. Like he dropped the F-bomb on live TV. Someone reported, and it was like one of the Giants reporters reported that the Giants have taken him completely off of their draft board after using foul language on TV. Like, I get it, right? You can't drop the F-bomb when you're being interviewed with ESPN. You can't do that. But is that worth taking a generational prospect off of your draft board? I just thought that was kind of silly. And I was like, you know what?
Nowadays, you kidding me? You want to get into that with the Raiders shit? It's just
come on, the F-bomb, that's not too bad. But
that is said so much on a football field. It's
right. And in a locker room, it's like
it's whatever. I mean, it's what, the Giants aren't going to have the chance to pick him anyway. So he's not going to last past the first two picks. So
well, that's what Jared said. He said losers lose. Losers lose.
That's it, Next game we had here, and we probably have a lot to talk about this one just because of how surprising it is. The Chiefs are now at 3-4 after losing to the Titans 27-3, probably the lowest score Patrick Mahomes has ever scored in a game by far. He did get hurt. But he did throw for 206 and an interception. Darren Williams had 20 yards rushing. That's about it. Pringle had 73 yards rushing. Kelsey had 65. Tyreek Hill had 49. On the defensive side, Neiman had a sack, and Gay had an interception. On the Tennessee side, Tannehill threw for 270, 1 touchdown and 1 interception. King Henry had 86 yards. No touchdowns, though. Tannehill did have a rushing touchdown, by the way. A.J. Brown had a receiving touchdown on 133 yards. Julio Jones had 38 yards receiving. Pruitt had a receiving touchdown. On the defensive side, D'Amico Autry, a Raider alum, had 2 sacks against the Chiefs. Dupree and Landry also had sacks. And Evans had an interception. But this was an absolute killing. Patrick Mahomes did get knocked out of the game, but it was way too far into the game for it to affect it that much.
It was an absolute blowout by the time that had happened. Derrick Henry, the king, more like the MVP, wasn't the greatest game by all means this past week, but he did have the touchdown throw, which was really cool. One thing that I noticed is that the Chiefs had a lot of penalties early on in this game, and I think that hurt them. And man, I say this every single week. I say this every single week that we talk about it because we talk about what did happen. Patrick Mahomes simply is not that guy. I mean, he's not the guy who he has been throughout his entire career. It's 4 years up now in his career where he was,
a lot of people are starting to compare. A lot of people right now are starting to compare him to the Texas Tech Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I mean, this guy just isn't. People are saying, "Oh, he's Aaron Rodgers. He makes these impossible throws. He's throwing for 50 yards on his back foot." This guy is not Aaron Rodgers. He's not. This guy is not Russell Wilson. And I don't want to hear, "Oh, the Chiefs, they're not as good." I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, the Chiefs aren't as good as they have been." Really? Where? They still are. The Chiefs are. The roster that they have is not much of a downgrade from what it was last year. This is not 100% on Patrick Mahomes, but man, a lot of the weight is on his shoulders. Only bad note that I had for Tennessee is that this offensive line wasn't that great. They haven't been all season. But man, the Titans look good. I would not be surprised one bit if the Titans were the number one team in the AFC come playoff time. I wouldn't be surprised one bit if that was the case.
The one thing that I'll say about the Titans is that they have an offense that, in my opinion, works really well in the winter, and that's when we play the playoffs is in the winter. And in the AFC, there's not that many people, that many team in domes like there are in the NFC.
Right.
So it's something where I really think that their style, and they've shown it the last 2 years with Henry, because they've made it pretty far both years. They made it to the AFC Championship the year the Chiefs won, and then they made it to the divisional round. They still won a wild card, and they listen.
Last year, I think they lost to Buffalo. No, they lost to the Ravens in the wild card round because they won their division. And the Ravens.
Oh, that's right. The Ravens got back for losing the year before. You're right. I'm sorry. But still, their style of offense and their style of defense is pretty good for the playoffs. But the biggest thing, and I've always said this, that you win and lose games by the trenches, and their offensive side is not very good. Right. And it's going to get exposed by teams that have really good defenses. So overall, I'm happy to see the Chiefs where they are because I'm a Raiders fan.
Right.
I will always never count them out. Even when we play them, I will not count them out. They will rebound from this. Andy Reid will rebound from this. But every player has a down year, and this might be Patrick Mahomes. He's been playing like an immortal the last 3 years. Right. You got to give him a little bit of credit and say, hey, he's made the Super Bowl his first 2 out of 3 years. He's been in the AFC Championship every year he's played. And this year he's having a little bit of down year because he's been playing a ton of football lately.
Yeah.
And so who knows? But still, I'm going to give him a little bit of wiggle room and say that they're still – I don't think the Chargers and the Raiders are going to pull away as much as – because they've both shown that they can get the shit kicked out of them and lose. Right. Just like the Chargers did to the Ravens and just like the Chargers did to the Raiders. It's just it's a long season, but by the end of the season, I do feel like the Chiefs are going to be there in the end, but who knows? Let's move on to a little bit of a better subject. The Packers beat the football team at home 24-10. I hated this game. I watched the whole thing because I bet the over and I got – just listen, okay? Heineke is a moron, first of all. How do you dive into an end zone when there's no one around you?
I loved it.
And then, first of all, I don't understand that rule. He never got touched.
Yeah, if you
I thought giving yourself up was sliding legs first, head first.
As a quarterback, if you go towards the ground, you do not have to be touched. You are giving yourself
because they can call roughing the passer. No, I get it. It just, to me, the thing with me is that they had so many opportunities to make a game out of this, and they just screwed up. That the fourth thing, and then as a person, I needed points. I understand it was because I was angry about gambling, but from the standpoint of like, dude, what are you doing? Just get into the. How do these guys not know where the goal line is? You're an NFL.
I think that was more of because he didn't have to dive. The guy that was
nobody near him.
So I think that was more of not knowing the rule. I think he was being like, okay, I can dive, and
I think he thought he was in.
Yeah, I mean, he did. Oh, yeah, you're right. He did think he was in because he did the Lambeau leap. I forgot about that. Yeah, that was bad. But yeah, you got to know the rule. Like if you
it changes so much.
If you dive for the end zone as a quarterback and your knee or elbow or forearm touches before you get in the end zone, that is not a touchdown. Maybe that's what he was thinking. Maybe he wasn't.
I don't know.
Maybe he wasn't thinking that if no one touched him, he wasn't down. I mean, he could have just ran to the corner of the end zone. He didn't even have to dive.
Yeah, I don't know. But stats wise, he threw for 268, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He also ran for 95 yards, which was impressive. Gibson ran for 51 yards. McLaurin had 7 catches for 122 and a touchdown. That first touchdown was really nice by him above Stokes there. Seals Jones continues to impress with Logan Thompson being out with 51 receiving yards on the defensive side. Jonathan Allen had 2 sacks. Sweat had 1, and there was no interceptions. And Chase Young continues to not do anything this year.
Yeah. He
is just getting double teamed, and they are not. He's just not getting by it. I thought he was going to be a lot better than this. I don't know. Yeah. Aaron Rodgers threw for 274 and 3 touchdowns. Aaron Jones only had 19 yards rushing.
Yeah.
That was
okay.
I couldn't believe that. Devontae Adams had 76 and a touchdown. Tunyon had 63 and a touchdown. Lazard had 60 and a touchdown. On the defensive side, Kiki had a sack and a half. Lowry had half a sack. Rashawn Gary, who's really been stepping it up since Smith has been out, had 2 sacks. And Sullivan had an interception. So, you know what? Not much to say about this game either, except for, in my opinion, the Packers did not play that great.
No, I mean, we really weren't that great throughout the game. We did let them get on the drive a few times, but let's be honest, we probably shouldn't have won this game as much as we did. Wasn't necessarily a blowout. 24-10 isn't really a blowout, but it was never in doubt. 6 in the row for the Packers, by the way. But the red zone defense for the Green Bay Packers was clutch, time after time after time.
It usually isn't.
And that's what's crazy is that, we didn't have a great game offensively. We put up 24, which isn't bad, but we just weren't really gelling. And it is what it is. The defense wasn't amazing, but in the fourth quarter, or not even in the fourth quarter, throughout the whole game, in the red zone, this defense was clutch. Devontae Adams, he's the guy. He is the best receiver in football. He's the best receiver in football. Devontae Adams is. The one thing I do want to say about Taylor Heinicke, obviously he wasn't in, and then the next play he didn't score either. But when he thought he was in, and he did the Lambeau leap, this might ruffle some feathers for Packers fans. He did the Lambeau leap, and I was not mad at him one bit. And here's why. I am a huge Green Bay Packer fan. I played football growing up. I had, dreams of going to the NFL, this and that. When you're a kid who grew up loving the Packers, you make it to the NFL. You're not on the Packers, but you play the Packers and you score a touchdown in Lambeau Field. You're not going to jump. You're not going to do the Lambeau leap.
No,
I would do it. Like if I was in his situation, if I was on Washington or Seattle, I get it. If he's a Bear, I get it. If he's a Lion or a Viking or a Cowboy, I get it. But we're talking about the Washington football team. There's no rivalry. I didn't care that he jumped in. I was like, you know what? That's cool. I'd have done the same thing if I was in his position. So I'm not really mad at Taylor Heinicke for that. But overall, Washington is just not very good, and the Green Bay Packers are. So
let's talk about Thursday. Have to say, if Adams isn't in, and we know that Jair is not going to be in, correct?
100%.
So you guys are going to have a rough game.
I have faith in 12. It boils down to me having faith in our quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. The Cardinals are a really good football team.
and it's in Arizona, dude. I mean, it's just
I have faith in the Green Bay Packers. When I do my predictions,
yeah.
When I do my predictions, I'm probably going to pick the Cardinals. Because I'm not Mykel Sports, the Packers fan. I'm Mykel Sports, so I have to be unbiased. I do think that the Cardinals are going to win this game, but I'm not counting the Green Bay Packers out one bit. Yeah, we don't have Adams. Yeah, we don't have Lazard.
Well, the Adams thing is not for sure yet.
Yeah, well, and we don't have Jair on the defense. The Smith Bros are out. I don't think that we're going to win this game, but I wouldn't be surprised. If we won this game, I would not be going, shocker. You know what I mean? I would be like, that's a resilient football team.
They did what they needed to do. Yeah, it's just a good football team. Yeah.
I don't think it's impossible. I think it's gone from, let's be honest, the Cardinals are good. The Packers are good. I don't think either team is better than the other when fully healthy. Maybe the Packers have a slight edge when they're fully healthy because we've had guys hurt all year. With Adams, with Lazard, I think that it's probably 50-50. But the way that things are now, I still think that it's not that much of a difference. I think the Cardinals are the better team with our guys being out, but I've got faith. I think that we can win. We'll see. You
gotta have faith in it. You gotta have faith in it. And the thing is that you do have number 12, and number 12 is a big difference. And listen, I'm excited to watch the game. You know, I'm trying to get Bratter to watch it with me. He hasn't really answered me because I think he's a little nervous to watch it, and he doesn't want me to see him pissed. But
yeah,
the thing is that whoever's covering Hopkins is going to have a hell of a time. And I don't think they're going to put Stokes on him. I think they might put a veteran on him. And I think that's where the game can be won. But I can also say this. If the Packers play a balanced game of running the ball effectively, I think the Packers have a chance to win.
Yeah.
But if they are going to chase this Cardinals team shot for shot, it's tough to do without 17 in there.
I agree. Yeah, 100%.
Guys like Lazard's been playing great the last 2 games.
He tested positive. He tested positive for COVID.
Who did?
Lazard.
He's out too?
Yeah, him and Adams.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Him and Adams. Marquez Valdez-Scantling might be not hurt anymore.
So your number 1 receiver is going to be St. Brown.
Or Marquez Valdez-Scantling. And Rodgers and Cobb.
Oh, Cobb, okay. Hey, you know what? If they can run the ball and just hold the clock, they got a chance to do it. I want them to win. They're a good team. I want to see them win because I cheer for them just as much as I cheer for the Raiders because, I have so much family and you and Brad, you know what I'm saying? Like, I want to know about the team because, that's what everyone talks about. So, if they can hold that ball and keep it out of Kyler Murray's hands and disrupt Kyler Murray like they've been doing to other quarterbacks, then they'll be fine. But I have a feeling that they're going to get the ball first, Arizona, and they're going to score quick. And then the Green Bay is going to get nervous, and they're going to start throwing the ball everything when they don't have anybody to throw to right now.
Yeah.
You know, but we'll see. It's going to be interesting. Obviously, we'll be talking about it when it happens, you know. Next game we got is the Eagles travel to Las Vegas and lose 33-22. It was at one point 30-7. No, I'm sorry, 33-7. And the Raiders do what they usually do and let the team come back to make it nervous for the rest of their fans. But overall, it was a decent win. First time I watched the Eagles play, and yeah, they're not that good. And I thought they were a lot better on paper than, you know. But the big thing, too, is that Miles Sanders got knocked out in the first quarter. And he was actually doing really well until he got hurt, you know. But let's see what we got here. Jalen Hurts was 236, 2 touchdowns, and 61 yards rushing. Scott had a rushing touchdown. Goddard had 7 yards receiving. Smith had 61 yards receiving. Rager had 25 yards receiving and a touchdown. And Gainwell had 41 yards and a touchdown. On the defensive side, no sacks and 1 interception by Maddox. On the Raiders side, Derek Carr throws for 323. He was 31 for 34. Very high percentage there, 90% percentage there. 2 touchdowns and interception. Both Kenyon Drake and Josh Jacobs scored rushing touchdowns. Foster Moreau, in relief of Darren Waller, who didn't play, caught a touchdown. Edwards had a touchdown. Renfro did what he does, 58 yards receiving. Henry Ruggs, a little bit of a down game for him. He only had 24 yards receiving. On the defensive side, Yannick Ngakoue, the big Raiders acquisition of the offseason, had 2 sacks. And Jonathan Abram, Corey Littleton, both had fumble recoveries because there was no interceptions. But listen, overall, it was a good game. I've said a ton on the video I had before after they won. Something has happened to this team where it feels like a 50-pound weight has been lifted off the whole team. They're celebrating first downs, which I hate, but they weren't doing that when John Gruden was there. The coach is letting them play. I would like to see the defense stop. It just seems like once they get up a certain amount, like they did against Denver, they let Denver come back too, where it should have been 34-10. Just like this game should have ended 33-7.
Right.
But they let these teams come back like it's nothing. And it's just the thing is that I think that weight has been lifted off the shoulders of the team. I don't want to say especially Derek Carr, because Derek Carr has been playing well all season.
Yeah, he's been balling out.
Like Josh Jacobs, some of the defensive players, it just seems like there's a big weight lifted off their shoulders. And that's fine. Right now, I would not be upset with them rehiring this guy as the new coach because he just seems like he has the trust of everybody else. I just don't see it happening because you bring in a new GM. If they fire their GM, then they're going to want to bring in their own coach.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting there. But overall, Derek Carr is in second place in passing yards by 6 yards. The Raiders are the only team in the league to have 4 receivers with 300 yards or more, which is incredible. Because it's just like it's not just the Darren Waller show; it's everybody now.
Yeah,
everybody. He released Snead today because he knew he's not going to get any playing time. And on the defensive side, they're getting sacks, they're forcing fumbles. They're not getting interceptions, but you know what? You don't need a ton of interceptions to win games. So they've got a bye week coming up, and then they play the Giants. I've seen them lose games like this before. I just hope I just wish the Raiders would have the foot on the throat the whole game, but they're not that style of team. I don't know why, but it's always been like that. But overall, Derek Carr, in my opinion, still a dark horse for MVP. Should get a lot of accolades by the end of the season. And I think the off week is good for the injuries, but I also think that they need to not underestimate the Giants.
Yeah, as far as this game goes, it really was and felt like a blowout by the third quarter. And what's weird is when watching the game, watching the highlights, the Eagles didn't seem like they were playing bad. They just couldn't get it going. It's like they weren't playing at all. Does that make sense? It's like they weren't even there to a certain point. It's like they weren't making mistakes, this and that. They were just getting outplayed and outcoached. The Raiders' offense, I think, is the most underrated offense in the league and should be widely known as a top 5, top 10 offense in the NFL right now, especially with Josh Jacobs being back these last few weeks. He's been huge for the Raiders. Good win for them, kind of like the Packers last year. They just kind of in the last bit of the game when you could really be putting it away and really be putting your opponent to shame, they kind of let them come back a little bit. And that's not the end of the world when you're up 33-7, but when it's 24-10 or when it's 28-17 and it's a little bit closer, and then you start to let those comebacks happen, that's when it becomes a problem. As of right now, they still won by 11 points. Not too much to worry about for right now. But against the Giants, maybe those guys over there with a little bit of talent that they have, if the Raiders start to kind of let up in the fourth quarter, third quarter, you never know. But as of right now, doesn't seem like too much of a worry.
No, I hope not. I hope not. But I've seen them lose games like that and then go out and beat really good teams. It's just we'll see what happens. But overall, can't be upset with this team at all. Next game we got, which was just a tough game to felt so bad for this team again. The freaking Lions were up, I believe it was 16-3 at one point
Uh,
against the Rams. They were up at least 10. They were up 13-3 at one point against the Rams, and then the Rams kind of figured out who they were playing, and they come back. Jared Goff doesn't. He kind of gets his old team a little bit nervous, but then the Rams end up coming back to win the game. Jared Goff threw for 268, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Williams and Swift both had 50 yards rushing, but Swift also had 96 yards receiving and a touchdown. Raymond was their leading receiver at 115, and Hawkinson had 48. On the defensive side, Okwara had a sack and no interceptions on that side. Matthew Stafford continues to have an MVP year, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Henderson had 45 yards rushing. Cooper Kupp, 10 catches, 156 and 2 touchdowns. Robert Woods, 70 yards receiving. Jefferson, 1 receiving touchdown. Young had a sack. Joseph Day had a sack. Ramsey and Scott both had interceptions, and Jalen Ramsey was the leading tackler for the team. That shows a lot how good he really is. As much as people dislike him, he's a damn good player.
I think he's arguably the best corner in football. If it wasn't for my Packer bias, I would definitely say he was the best corner in football. Man, the Lions, they pulled out all the stops. I mean, they really wanted to win this game against their
They wanted to win it for their quarterback.
Yeah, and the Lions were really good in this game. They almost pulled out the huge upset if they finished drives and touchdowns. I feel like I say this every week about a different team. It's usually the Colts, but I'm going to say it about the Lions this week. If they finish drives and touchdowns instead of field goals, they win this game. It took a while for the Rams offense to get it going, but once they did, they kind of seemed unstoppable. Matt Stafford was making throws. Tough loss for the Lions. But I do think that this team is starting to look good week by week, just ever so slowly. Campbell is obviously, I think, the coach for them. And those guys, they want to play. Whether or not they're getting the wins or not, those guys are there to play football. And Campbell's got them in the right place, in the right direction. That's not really saying a lot for an 0-7 team. It's kind of tough to say that a team's going in the right direction when they're 0-7. But I think that this team has a very bright future with Campbell as the coach, and we'll see. But tough loss for the Lions, man. Tough loss for the Lions.
Yeah, I really don't have much to say except for the Rams got their heads out of their asses and got the job done. That's all it was. They got the job done. Next game we got, the Texans had a 5-0 lead at one point, but then the Texans end up giving up 31 unanswered points to the Cardinals for the Cardinals to still be the only undefeated team left in the NFL. Davis Mills had 135 yards passing. Their leading rusher was David Johnson with 25 yards rushing, and their leading receiver was Collins with 28 yards. That was their leading receiver, 28 yards. On defense, Walker had a sack, Grenard had 2, Collins had 1, and Johnson had an interception, which shows that Arizona's offensive line can be penetrated. So, on the other side, Kyler Murray threw for 261, 3 touchdowns and an interception. Connor had a rushing touchdown. He has had a lot of rushing touchdowns this year. I think 5 or 6.
You're balling out.
81 yards rushing. On the receiving side, Zach Ertz had 66 yards and a touchdown. Hopkins had 53 yards and a touchdown. Christian Kirk had 50 yards and a touchdown. And A.J. Green, he's having a decent year too with 66 yards receiving. On the defensive side, Golden had 2 sacks, and there was no interceptions thrown. So,
yeah, this was an interesting game from the beginning because the Cardinals' offense was bad in the first quarter. I mean, they were bad in the first quarter. They weren't doing much, and then they just decided to catch fire in that second quarter. The defense was great against this weak Texans team, and when I say weak, man, they're weak. This is a bad Texans team, and Kyler continuing to make that MVP case. I keep saying Derrick Henry because I would really like to see Derrick Henry win it. It's going to be tough for him for how good Kyler Murray's playing, though. But yeah, good win for the Cardinals. Started off a little slow, but this is a really good team. Best offense in football in my eyes.
Yeah, I agree. If you can't throw to Hopkins, you throw to A.J. Green. If you can't throw to A.J. Green, you throw to Christian Kirk. If you don't throw to Christian Kirk, oh, yeah, by the way, now you can throw it to Zach Ertz.
Right.
And then
if all those guys are covered, you got 2 really solid backs that just might be open in the flat to get a couple yards. They've
got that kid, Rondell Moore, who's a burner.
Yeah, Rondell Moore was balling out this year.
Yeah, so
maybe they're the Super Bowl favorite.
Next, we've got the Buccaneers beating the hell out of the Bears 38-3. The Bears continue to struggle on offense. Justin Fields had 184 yards and 3 touchdowns. I'm going to stop there and say this. I did not expect this guy to be this bad. I thought he was the best quarterback going into the draft. He might turn out to be good, but he is not showing shit right now. He really isn't. I know the Bucs are a damn good team, but you got to show me something. And I know he beat the Raiders, but he didn't do much when he beat the Raiders either. So
he only threw for 120 yards in that game.
I think so. Yeah, something like that. Let's see here. Herbert had 100 yards rushing. Their leading receiver was Komet with 43 yards. Yeah, just bad. On the defensive side, they had 0 sacks and 0 interceptions, so didn't do much there. On the Brady side, I'm sorry about the Bucs side. I didn't mean the Tampa Bay Brady's. He only threw for 211. He only threw for 211, but he threw 4 touchdowns, which includes his 600th. Congratulations to him on that. Leonard Fournette had 81 yards and a rushing touchdown. Chris Godwin had 111 yards and a touchdown. Mike Evans, 76 yards and 3 touchdowns. No Raiders were fired during the live stream. No.
Not this time.
Not this time. On the defensive side, JPP had 2 sacks. Barrett had 1. Winfield had the other. And on the interception side, Delaney and Desir had interceptions. So not much you can really say about the Bears, and the Tampa Bay continues to take care of business.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are just absolutely balling out. This offense is unstoppable. Brady continuing to just make milestones. 600 passing touchdowns. That's insane. The Bears defense was terrible on the road. I mean, this is a defense that I've been talking up for a while now. I've thought this defense was really good this whole season. They give up 38 points to Tom Brady and the Bucs. The one thing you can say about Justin Fields is he was thrown in way too early. This guy is good.
Yeah.
I think he has the talent. This guy's got the talent. He was thrown in way too early. And the Bears don't have an easy schedule either. So it's
now
tough.
He's shell-shocked.
It's tough because I like Justin Fields, but he's a Bear. So whenever he fails, I'm like, yay. But I'm also kind of like, I like this guy though. But it's tough to watch because this guy definitely has a bright future. He was just thrown in there way too early. Way too early, man. But it is what it is. Good win for the Bucs. This was really a win-win, lose-lose situation as a Packers fan because you want to see the Bucs lose, but you also don't mind the Bears losing either. So it was kind of like, you know what? Whatever.
Yeah. They're no threat to your division, and Tampa Bay just continues to roll. Sunday Night Football. The Indianapolis Colts go into San Francisco and beat them. I'm not surprised by this outcome. I wasn't. But I think a lot of people are surprised that the San Francisco 49ers are now 2-4. And I really think that Kyle Shanahan, his job is he's on the hot seat, in my opinion. San Francisco stat-wise, Garoppolo threw 181, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Mitchell ran for 107 and a touchdown. Deebo Samuel went 100 yards and a touchdown. No one else really did anything else on the receiving side of it. On the defensive side, Street had a sack, and Al Shahir had an interception. On the Colts side, Carson Wentz threw for 150 and 2 touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor ran for 107 and a touchdown. Carson Wentz also had a rushing touchdown. Michael Pittman had 4 catches for 105 yards and a touchdown. Mo Ali Cox continues to catch touchdowns with another one this week. On the defensive side, DeForest Buckner had a sack against his old team. Mohammed had a sack. Willis had himself an interception along with Xavier Rhodes. So I don't know if this was a surprising win. I think that the Colts have shown some life, but San Francisco is underachieving big time.
Yeah, I really thought that the 49ers were going to win this game. I thought that these teams were evenly matched. I thought that Jimmy G, healthy off that bye, was going to look really good. I just thought it was a tough game for the Colts and a tough loss that they were going to have, but that's just not how things happen. It was a rainy day, very sloppy game. It was hard for offenses and both quarterbacks to get it going. But eventually the Colts kind of got it going, and the 49ers really just never did. The young stars for the Colts, Pittman and Taylor, they are balling out in Indianapolis. Those guys can be franchise cornerstones in the near future. Possibly starting next year, these guys could be the guys in Indianapolis. Sadly, for the Niners fans, I think they're done. I do not think this team has a shot to win the division. I don't think this team has a shot to make the playoffs anymore. The Niners are done.
Yeah, I've got a – yeah, I mean, and to me, I just think that overall you got to have consistency. And the Niners have good enough receivers and good enough running backs to be consistent. I know that Kittle is not there right now, but they've got Deebo Samuel, they've got Ayuk, and their defense has just been letting them down. They're not as good as they once were. Bosa's not getting to the quarterback like he was. It's just not the same team. It's not. And I know that Jimmy G was hurt for a little while in the beginning, but, it just, to me, I don't know. Maybe that Packers game just broke their spirits. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was early in the
Aaron
season.
Rodgers driving down the field in 30 seconds to kill your hopes and dreams.
That the year they made it to the Super Bowl, that a couple years ago, that defense would have never let them do that. And that defense, I think, is where the issue is. I don't think it's with the offense. I think the defense, I don't know. But, we'll see what happens. I don't know. I don't know what conclusion to say. I think that he's a good coach, but he's got to turn it around, because this division now, with Seattle being bad without Wilson, Arizona obviously is Arizona, but they have a chance and they're just blowing it. They're just blowing it right now.
Especially with how weak.
What's that?
What I'm saying is, like, the top of the NFC is great, but all throughout the NFC is pretty weak. I mean, you look at the NFC North, the Packers are going to win the NFC North. You look at the NFC East, the Cowboys are easily going to run away with the NFC East. The NFC South, who is in the NFC South? Oh, the Buccaneers are easily going to run away with the NFC South. Everyone that is at the top of their division is probably going to win the division. Maybe the Rams come back and beat the Cardinals. But, I mean, we look at the wild cards. I think that the Niners are better than the Vikings. I think that the Niners are way better than any other team in the NFC East that isn't the Cowboys. I think that they are better than the other teams in the NFC South that aren't the Buccaneers. And so it's not like the 49ers shouldn't make the playoffs, but I just don't think that they will. They have a talented roster. They're just not getting the wins. They're not playing good. That's what's going to make them miss the playoffs. Not because they're not talented, because they're just not playing good.
They're just not playing good at all. You're right. You're 100% right. You're 100% right. We'll see what happens though, because it's like I said, it's early. We're in week 7 of 18. It's not like we got a lot of time to go here.
Almost halfway there. Oh, it makes me sad.
I know. All right. Finally, what's that?
Nate S is cracking me up. The Lions will come back and take the division.
Yeah. Well, BL says with many Packers players going out, do they still have a shot this week? We don't know if they're going to be out. But if they are, I still think they have a shot. They just got to have the right game plan. That's all it is. Finally, Monday Night Football. The Saints go to Seattle, win 13-10. Seattle scores early in the first quarter and then does nothing after that. It was pretty much the Alvin Kamara show on the Saints side. Seattle, Geno Smith had 167 yards and a touchdown. There wasn't really many rushing to talk about. DK Metcalf had 96 yards and a touchdown. On the defensive side, Carlos Dunlap had half a sack. Green had a sack. And there was no interceptions thrown. On the Saints side, Jameis Winston had 222 and a touchdown. Alvin Kamara had 50 yards rushing, 128 yards receiving, and a touchdown. And on the defensive side, Davis had 2 sacks. Jenkins and Jordan had a sack, as well as Fespagon. And then there was no interceptions thrown, which is weird against Geno Smith. But that was a really brutal Monday Night Football game.
Yeah. It was, in my eyes, when I was watching it, and maybe it was just because I didn't watch the full game. I just had to watch the highlights. It was low scoring, but there was a lot of action in this game. Lots of pushing and shoving from Lattimore and DK Metcalf, obviously. Both of these defense absolutely showed out. Seattle's offense is too good. I don't care that Geno Smith is the quarterback. Their offense is way too good to only put up 10 points. 10 points in a 60-minute football game. The Saints are keeping those playoff hopes. I don't know about this team. They're so up and down, but they're keeping their playoff hopes. This is going to be interesting going down the stretch for the Saints. The Seahawks, man, they got to get wins. I know Russ is hurt, but they got to get some wins. Tough, very tough. And they've had 3 primetime games in a row. Russ got hurt on a Thursday night football game. Last week, they lost to the Steelers on a Sunday night football game. And then last night, obviously, was Monday night, and they lost 2. So this team's lost 3 primetime games in a row without one of the better quarterbacks in the league. So,
yeah. We'll see what happens, because it could be, like you said, it could be one way or the other, and it's just – and Pete Carroll was quoted in saying, I would not have been here as long if it wasn't for Russell Wilson. And he's right, but, he's got to win with the guys he's got. And it's just, we'll see what happens. But overall, I think Seattle, they always rebound, and they will. They always do, It's just the Saints are such an enigma. You don't know what team you're going to get. But overall, I think Seattle's got a better shot at making the playoffs than the Saints do, even though their record is what it is. Just because I have faith in Russell Wilson, and I think he's going to be back earlier than expected because of how bad they're playing.
Yeah. Well, the year that the Packers won the Super Bowl, the year in my life that the Packers won the Super Bowl in 2010, I think it was the 2010 season, but it was 2011. The year that happened, Aaron Rodgers had to miss a little bit of the season because he was hurt. So I wouldn't give up on the Seahawks just yet.
No, I mean, it's not. It's stupid too, but who knows? But that is your show. Another good week of football. Hopefully everyone enjoyed the show as much as we enjoyed putting it on. Once again, thank you guys for watching. Do us a favor while you're watching. Remember to subscribe to both Bigger and Bradder and Mykel Sports. Mike, let them know where they can find you in the rest of social media.
Yeah, guys, like Big Tuna said, as always, you can find me on YouTube at Mykel Sports. I'm selling hoodies for $30 a pop right now. If you want one, just make sure to hit me up on Instagram at Mykel Sports _YouTube or my Twitter at Mykel Sports.
What's the biggest size you can get?
I'm not sure. I haven't been in a minute. They ran out of vinyl. Like they haven't even been able to print anything in like a month. So it's been crazy, but well, I'm about to find out soon. I'm about to go pick up a bunch of new orders. So
I want one.
I'm going to get you one. I got you.
It's got to be really big. Like fat guy.
I got you. All right.
But yeah, remember to subscribe to Mike. Check it out. He's always bantering on there. It's a good watch. It's a good listen. And he usually does his picks.
Especially for the baseball fans right now. I did my World Series predictions today, and then after every single game, there will be a in-depth video breaking down the whole game, game by game in the World Series. So if you like baseball, then why not?
There you go. There you go. Remember to subscribe, guys. We'll see you guys soon. Enjoy the week. Enjoy the Raiders bye week like I will be doing. And enjoy Arizona Green Bay on Thursday. I know we will be. So we'll see you guys later. Have a good night. Stay safe.